Welcome to Evilive, the live media commentary show that answers the question, why the devil has the best tunes? Subscribe if you're new to the channel, because today we are reviewing The Black Cauldron from the Chronicles of Prydain, Book 2 by Lloyd Alexander. Now, this was originally published by Holt, Reinhardt, and Winston on August 5th. Was it the 5th? I'm not even sure if that's right, 1965. It might have been later. All right, so this is a 1966 book. So it was published 1966. It was a Newbery honor book, actually. And it's the runner-up for the year's most distinguished contribution to American literature for children. And yes, this is a children's book. And yes, I am not a children. I'm a grown-ass man who never read this before. And so I'm going to move myself over a little bit. So I am going to be reading it, it's like 5 different books in the set. So I'm going to read all of them and give you my reviews here. If you don't want to hear about children's books, and you just don't love fantasy and you just hate joy, well then turn it off and go somewhere else, because this is what I'm doing today. All right, so this entire book is really just about, this entire series is about the character Taran, a young assistant pig farmer, and his growth, his character arc. The last book, the Book of 3, was about him learning what it meant, what the wide world meant, and what it meant to go into the world and face danger. This particular book teaches him what it means to stick with your friends and about sacrifice. And ultimately, it's really about betrayal and sacrifice of Eladir, the prince that we're going to be getting into here shortly. But that's, it's all about, each book is going to, I believe, be about Taran growing up and understanding these sort of lessons that are contained within the book. So the setup is that Arawn, the Lord of Anuvin, the land of death, is still out there. He's out there doing his thing, trying to be evil. He's been creating many more undead people. They call them Cauldron-borns, from the Black Cauldron, hence the name. Now, if you ever saw the Walt Disney film, the animated film, it's supposed to be an amalgamation of the Book of 3 and the Black Cauldron novels. It's not really. It's a completely different. It has the characters, but not all of them, and then it changes the story, and so it's very convoluted and different. In its own right, I truly enjoyed it, and I loved it as a kid. But as far as like the books are concerned, it's not really anything to do with them. So the point is that in Caer Dallben, which is this little hamlet, this little village that Taran, the assistant pig keeper, lives in, with some other veterans, Cole, who's a son of Colfruer. He's an old veteran warrior. He lives with Dallben, who is an old enchanter. And he looks after Henwin the pig, who is actually an oracular pig. It can like see the future and stuff. So he takes care of them, and you'll remember from the last book that he was joined by Princess Eilenwy, who is this princess of the evil land of Anuvin, who was sent over to learn from another evil enchantress, but she's actually a good girl. Like her heart is good, and so she just joined Taran on all his adventures, and now she lives at Caer Dallben as well. We're also joined by Gurgi, if you remember him. It never really states what species Gurgi is, just that Gurgi is Gurgi. Who's this humanoid, hairy creature that is, I don't know, kind of kicked around, and Taran's the only one that sees him as an individual of value, and so he sticks around and helps him. But basically, the king's son, the High King Math, his son, Prince Gwydion of Royal House of Dawn, is summoning all the different kings, because you remember there's the High King that oversees a bunch of lower kings in this land. So he's summoning all the warlords and all the kings to come down to Caer Dallben to have a council about the threat of all the new Cauldron-born that Arawn, the Lord of Anuvin, is creating with the Black Cauldron. And so they come up with this plan to break into Arawn's castle, steal the Black Cauldron so that he can't create any more Cauldron-born zombies, and then destroy it, bring it back to Caer Dallben, and then destroy it. So that's the setup, and Taran is going with him because he helped with the last adventure, so why not? Fluter Flam, who is now a king again. He tried to be a bard for a while, but he wasn't a very good bard. He lies a lot, and his harp breaks strings every time he lies. And so he's now once again a king. He's the son of Gordo, and he's going to be joining on the adventure. Dolly, the fair folk dwarf, is also joining, and he was gifted with invisibility. So it's Dolly's job, once they get to the castle, to sneak in, find out where the Black Cauldron is, come back out and tell everyone in the army so that they can go in and bust it out. And basically what happens is, oh yeah, and I can't forget this, they're also joined by Prince Eladir, the son of Penlar Cow. Now, Prince Eladir is a straight-up asshole piece of shit. He is just a mouthy fuckface. No one likes him. He doesn't like anyone else. And it's because he's the third son of the king. And so he's not going to inherit anything unless his two brothers die. And they're all better at everything than him. And so he has no inheritance. And because he's the third son, no one really gives him any respect. And so he's a straight up asshole to Taran the whole time. And that's just the beginning. It gets a lot worse. So you get Taran and his friends, and then all of the different kings and war leaders going with them to go to Arawn in the land of Anuvan and try to sneak in the castle. And it ends up being that the cauldron was already taken. And there's suggestion, and I can't really forget because Taran is sort of being commanded along with Prince Eladir. Together, they're being commanded by Arawn, who's the son of the chief bard Taliesin. Arawn is this wonderful lord who is just caring and, I don't want to say the word loving, but that's kind of the essence of his character. He cares about Taran and the other people under his charge, and he wants them to be good people, good human beings. And so he gives advice on that vein, and, he teaches them how to be better warriors and true to themselves and stuff. So anyway, they're being watched by Arawn, and as soon as Dolly gets out saying, look, the cauldron's not there, they hear this suggestion that it was taken by Ordu, Orwin, and Orgoch. We don't know who those three people are at this point, only that they are supposed to have the Black Cauldron. And so Arawn sends out hunters looking for it, and these hunter parties attack everyone else, including Arawn, Taran, Eladir, and Fluter, Gurgi, and Ilanwi. So they're all like fighting the hunters and trying to run away. The hunters end up killing Arawn. Arawn gives this necklace brooch to Taran. I'm mixing up all my fantasy books right now. He gives this little brooch to him, and the brooch allows him to see dreams and foretell the truth about people in the future. But it doesn't explain it. It just gives him visions and dreams that he can then interpret. So he learns that there's this swamp that the Black Cauldron is supposed to be in. And so they're staying one night, and Prince Eladir, who again is just a total asshole to Taran and everyone the whole time, ends up leaving on his watch in the middle of the night to go find the cauldron so that he can get all the credit for it, so no one else gets any credit. He's a real Napoleon complex, this piece of shit. So he abandons them in the middle of the night. They're running from these hunters that are trying to kill them from Anuvan. And they end up coming across this old crone village, which ends up being Ordu, Orwen, and Orgoch. And those three witches, ostensibly, very sort of Macbeth, if you catch the meaning, they're telling Taran that, yes, they took the Black Cauldron back from Arawn because Arawn came to them and asked for it, and they said you could have it for X amount of time, and then Arawn didn't give it back, and so they went and took it. Now, these are three enchantresses that are incredibly powerful. So Taran's whole plan is, well, they're going to crash here for the night in the barn. They're going to find the Black Cauldron and steal it and destroy it. Of course, the witches already know that he's there to do that, and so they basically catch him in the act of trying to steal it, and say, look, we'll give it to you if you want it, but you got to trade something for it. And so eventually he parts with Arawn's brooch, which he really doesn't want to because, Arawn was a good person and he was so good to Taran and the rest of his friends. But he ends up giving it up, and so they give him the cauldron, but he can't break the cauldron. He finds out the only way to destroy the cauldron is for someone to willingly, knowing that it'll kill them, as a live person, climb into the cauldron. The cauldron will then kill that person, and it will destroy the cauldron. And so they're going to drag it all the way back, or they're going to try to drag it all the way back to Caer Dallben, his home, in order to ask Dallben, the enchanter, how are we going to proceed with this? Who should we ask to, sacrifice themselves? Ultimately, they find out that Dallben was actually trained as an enchanter by these three crones, by these three witches, which is a kind of funny little world, note. So on the way back, they're unable to really effectively drag this thing, and they get to this river, and then the cauldron gets stuck in the river, and that's where they run across Eldir again. And Eldir is, at this point, frenzied and mad because he can't find the cauldron, he can't find his way out. He's being attacked by those Gwythaints, those big birds of prey that Arawn uses as spies, and he's doing his best just to survive. He ends up making them swear this oath that he found it, and they have to swear to that. And if they swear that it's all his doing and he gets all the credit, then he'll help them get it out of the river. And otherwise, he's not going to let them do it. So they end up swearing the oath that they're going to lie and say that, yes, Eldir is the one that found it all on his own, and we just happened to cross him. We're here helping him get it, but he doesn't really need us. Except then Eldir's like, you agreed to that too fast. Now I have to kill you to make sure that no one finds out the truth. He's straight up going crazy. So ultimately, Taran falls in the river, running from him, and he almost drowns. The friends end up running from him, Eldir, because Eldir's trying to kill them as well. They find Taran, they revive him out of the river. And then they start wandering their best on the way back to Caer Dallben, hoping they can find it before they, get killed by all the other crazy wild stuff that's in these woods. They run across one of the war leaders who had already caught Eldir, finds the truth from the Princess Eilonwy, who's just this really great, sassy female princess. She's just awesome. She's super judgy, but awesome. And he ends up taking them back, but his whole thing is now that he has the cauldron, he's going to use it. The cauldron corrupts you, kind of like in Lord of the Rings, how the ring corrupts you. And so he has imprisoned everyone, and his whole plan is to raise his own army, overthrow the evil Lord Arawn, and become the new evil overlord. The whole time, Taran is trying to get out, and he can't, and then Dolly comes in with his invisibility, lets everyone out, and Prince Eldir finally realizes what he was doing and sees that it wasn't just, it wasn't right. He shouldn't have acted that way. And he was being influenced by the cauldron itself. At least that's my interpretation of it. And he says, I know what I need to do. I apologize for everything I did. I hope this makes up for it. And he ends up throwing himself in the cauldron, kills himself in order to destroy this thing that corrupts everyone and can create basically the ultimate warriors who, as undead zombies, no one can really kill effectively, and they never sleep, and they can always hunt you down and kill you. So he sacrifices himself for the sake of all the other free peoples in this land, and that sort of redeems his character in the eyes of Taran and his friends. And then they end up going back to Caer Dallben finally, and the story ends. So that is the whole entire story of the Black Cauldron. It still leaves those evil creatures out there. I mean, we have the evil priestess from the evil enchantress from the first novel. We have Arawn is still out there, the Lord of Anuven. So there's still a lot of bad stuff that is going to be happening in the remaining three short novellas, I guess I would call them, to come. But it was a fun story. I really enjoyed this one a lot more than the last one. It felt more dangerous. There was more consequences. Real sacrifice, which I just always desperately love. I don't know why, because I wouldn't sacrifice myself for anyone but my family members. Maybe one or two friends if it was a really dire situation, but other than that, no thanks. I choose life. But all the characters in it were really great, and it's nice seeing the growth and the development, not just of Taran, the main character, but also his close friends, Princess Eilonwy, Gurgi, Flutterflam, the king, and Dolly the dwarf. And I'm hoping that they're going to move on in the future as well. He gets a lot of support from Prince Gwydion, who's the son of the High King, who rules over all of this land, which is nice because you see that he is of value to people who really shouldn't need him. You know, they're supporting him and they're encouraging him to be a better person and a strong warrior and stuff. And so yes, he's an assistant pig farmer, but his future seems to be something of infinite more significance. And I can't wait to find out what that is in the next 3 books. So I hope you guys have a chance to read this. If you have, what did you think of this story? If you've just seen the films, I highly recommend you check out these first 2 books because it gives you entire different context to the film that you watched. Even though the film is fun, there's so much more depth in these novels, even though they are catered to a youthful audience. It's worth exploring, I think, if you're a fan of fantasy in general. And that's it. That's all I got for my review today. Thanks you guys so much for joining me. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And as always, evil spelled backwards is live. So get your asses out there and be evil.